we need to continue to push the needle forward for girls to play youth sports.
Welcome to the highly anticipated second series of Kuul Conversations. Thank you for the incredible response to our first series. And we heard your ask, and so we're back for more conversations, where I, Claire McSweeney, founder and CEO of Kuul Play, sit down with thought leaders, change makers, and innovators who share our commitment to building healthy, vibrant communities. These brilliant, forward-thinking people with amazing stories are shaping the future of our children's physical activity, sport, and health. Now, conversations can lift us up, catalyze action, and my hope is that these conversations are meaningful, whether you're a coach, parent, caregiver, educator, or just interested in health, and that they leave something of value with you. So come join us for another series of inspiring and insightful Kuul Conversations. Here's to learning, growing, and moving together. We all know the need to get more kids active and playing sports, but there can be a tendency to overlook including kids in this conversation. Giving light to kids' voices is at the heart of Kuul Play, so much so that Kuul Play was in fact named by kids, because they said it's just really fun, everyone can play, it's cool. And so it is fitting to kick off this second series of Kuul Conversations with an emerging leader and rising star in youth sports. Join me in welcoming Pepper Persley, the 12-year-old multi-sport athlete, sports journalist and broadcaster. She's the host of her own podcast, Dish with Pepper, as well as hosting for Nike, ESPN Kidscast, Aces, and covering WNBA, MLB and NFL. Not to mention interviews with the First Lady, Jill Biden, Michelle Obama, as well as WNBA star Sue Bird. And now she's about to release her first children's book, Not to Anything, which you can pre-order on Amazon. And when she's not reporting on sports, she's playing them, from a black belt in Taekwondo to her dream sport, basketball. For this conversation, Pepper took a moment to step on the other side of the mic to tell us what youth sport can and should look like for this generation. Pepper, I am really thrilled to have this time with you and to chat and to learn from you. And you are our very first Kuul Conversations youth guest. For me, that's so important for many reasons, but in particular because it really is our responsibility that we include children's voices in conversations around evolving youth sport. And Kuul Play itself has always been child-centered, with putting kids' voice and input into the design and the delivery of everything that we do. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
All right, thank you so much for having me, Claire. I'm really excited to be with you today.
Super. And, it's when I was reading up on all of the things that you've done, one of the things that struck me was last year, you were one of Adweek's most powerful women in sports. Congratulations. That's a huge statement.
Thank you. Yeah, I was shocked when I first found out, but it's really an honor.
It's what's so fascinating about it, and I can see why, is that you really do have a front row seat in, we'll say, the professional side of sports as a sports journalist and broadcaster. And then on the other end of the sports continuum, you are playing in the trenches of the youth sports ecosystem.
Yeah, I think, right, like, youth sports means a lot to me as an athlete, and it's part of the reason why I ended up becoming a sports journalist, because I was inspired by, like, professional athletes as a youth athlete, and youth sports has definitely been a really important part of my development, especially my confidence, like, now, being on camera in front of so many, like, knowing people are watching me, like, I don't think I would be as comfortable with stuff like that if I hadn't been an athlete, because you're performing in front of, even if it's not as many people, it's still parents, coaches, teammates, like people you care about, which might even be more impactful to me than people I don't know. So I think, like, sports has impacted me on so many levels, and that just is like one example.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And so if you could take us back then to where it began for you, how did you get started in youth sport?
Right. So the first sport I always try to remember. I played soccer and basketball when I was really young. Those are my main two sports. Now I'm more basketball and softball actually, but I played basketball first, and first it was really like I started when I was 5 or 6, so it wasn't really like any high level like gameplay. Really, it was just a lot of like fundamentals. And I think like basketball is my number one sport now. And I think starting from a really young age has definitely like positively affected me. And yeah, and then when I started playing soccer, it was for just like in like an intramural league. So I remember like my first game, I was not very good. I didn't have a lot of experience with soccer. It was more different from basketball than I thought it would be. And then over the course of that season, I really improved, and I think that was one of my first like struggles with like adversity and then overcoming that and being one of the best players on my like little like 6 7 year old team. So I think like those are my first two introductions to sport. And then I started playing softball a couple years ago during the pandemic actually, so that was a little bit interesting, but that was like more closer to where I am now. So I feel like soccer and basketball was when I really first started playing sports. So.
That's really interesting. And you touched on something that I think a lot of us experience is when we try sports, and particularly different sports. Some we have a more of an affinity to, and they're a little bit easier. And some, as you talked about the adversity, they're just more challenging. And I'm wondering, what is it that made you stick with it for the season and stay in it?
I think one of the biggest reasons was like the community within team sports. Like I had friends on that team, people that I just wanted to be around, and so that kind of motivated me to keep getting better as a player, so I could be out on the field with them. So I think my teammates had a lot to do with that.
So the aspect of friends and social and team in sports is really important for you and in your journey and keeping you engaged and involved.
Yeah, I mean, to this point, I really only played team sports, and I think that definitely has something to say with like. I mean, I've made so many friends over the years through sports, and in I mean, as someone who's like working on like reporting and stuff, like I cover mainly team sports, but also like when you're on a broadcast, you're also part of the team. Like I've done sideline reporting before, and you have like broadcasters that you're working with, you have a producer. So team sports, I think, comes in handy for a lot of jobs, and like mine as a 12-year-old included, right? Because a lot of jobs are centered around teams. So I think team sports is just so beneficial. Yeah.
That's incredible. It is quite the menu of sports. And I believe I read somewhere that you also have a black belt in Taekwondo.
Yeah, I do. And that was another sport that I started early on, first grade, I think. Yeah, and so I got my black belt last summer, which was like obviously a humongous achievement for me and for anyone. And I used to do taekwondo through like my old school, and then I ended up switching schools. So that was a big community for me there. Then I ended up switching schools, and I became friends with someone who we were on like the same taekwondo schedule, so we tested for our black belt together. So I think that was something that I definitely lost, like changing schools, but being able to still continue taekwondo at my new school and like make a friend who I was able to go through like because yeah, because like earning my black belt was definitely a big challenge. And I think one of the other things I love most about Taekwondo is like the teacher aspect, because one of the philosophies is like Taekwondo would die off unless you teach it to the next generation. So I go to the elementary school for like my middle school, high school, and then I get to teach younger girls, and they'll come up to me during other school events, and they'll like have these big smiles on. So I think that's also something that I love so much, just being able to teach them and build connections with younger girls.
That's incredible in giving back and to bring, because girls in sport is an area or a topic in particular that not enough girls are active in sport, and so mentoring and being back involved must be really rewarding for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yes, I think like you said, like girls in sports don't have as many opportunities as boys do. And so I think, those girls being able to see me and all the other assistant teachers like around my age in high school, whatever it is, like just encourages them to keep going too because I think being like if you can see it, you can be it, and it's awesome to be like part of an example of that.
Absolutely. And I'd love to maybe pull on that concept of, if she can't see it, she can't be it, that slogan that's used. What's been your experience of that for you?
Right. I think there's not a lot of like kid journalists really that I look up to. But I think definitely like as a basketball player, like watching the WNBA from a young age, and it's something that my dad especially made sure I went to a bunch of New York Liberty games. So I was open to that from a very young age, which I know a lot of girls, a lot of even my friends aren't, who even play sports, play basketball, don't know a lot about the WNBA, which is part of why I do what I do to try to make sure girls know that is an option for them, right? Because every time I hear a girl say, like a basketball player say, I want to grow up and I want to be the first woman to play in the NBA, I'm like, no, but there's the WNBA for you too. So I think I'm grateful to my parents for that, for making sure that I saw that when I was really young. And it's kind of what I'm doing now is connected to that for sure. Just, seeing the WNBA and doing whatever I can to like promote their stories because they inspire me and they make my dream like a possible reality, and trying to inspire other girls to know that that's an option for them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really that, that insight really, says so much about who you are in highlighting the voices of girls and women in sport today in that mission. And I'm wondering, what does it mean to show out and show up for girls in youth sport?
I think it's I never like to think of myself of like the example. Like it's hard to think of yourself like that. Like I know I'm just like any other girl that just plays sports, and thankfully like right now there are a lot of girls who are playing sports. And I do know that there's like a high dropout rate like around my age. So I mean in the sports community that I'm in, for my basketball team, for my softball team, for taekwondo, I think it's amazing to see how many like girls are around me, and I love that. And I think we need to continue to push the needle forward for girls to play youth sports.
Absolutely. And it sounds like your parents are huge advocates of that in showing up for you and exposing you to the games and this whole world of the WNBA. And that visibility is so, so important. Have you experienced for girls, from different backgrounds, whether that's race, ethnicity, even different abilities? I'm curious if you have noticed, some differences across perceptions of playing sports for girls, from different backgrounds. Is there differences there?
I think definitely within youth sports in general, there's obviously like a pay gap, right? Because even like the AU teams I'm on, like I know we need to pay, which immediately is unfortunately like a barrier and a gap for some girls. And I think just in general for kids in general, like youth sports should it they should be open to anybody, like no matter what. And I know there are definitely organizations out there that I've been a part of that I've tried to promote, that are nonprofits, that girls and anybody can play for free. And I think that's really important. I mean, sports has benefited me, like I said, in so many like positive ways. I just wish it was so like easier for any and every kid to have those opportunities.
Yes, the accessibility is definitely challenging. And you are doing an awful lot in terms of making it visible, for kids with your reporting, and particularly for girls. And I'm wondering, how does it make you feel connecting with these female athletes in particular through your journalistic work?
Right. I mean, it's a dream come true. Like every time I'm talking to them, I just think about like the fact that like me like 4 or 5 years ago would have been like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe you're doing this, like interviewing the people who are like incredible role models for me. So I think I'm just grateful to continue to have these opportunities, to not only like learn from them, but also be able to share their stories, because I still believe the WNBA doesn't get enough coverage. And so I'm doing whatever I can to try to grow that. And hopefully, everybody who follows me or watches any of my videos will be inspired by the players and everything they're doing.
That they are. I can definitely say that I am indeed. It's phenomenal. I enjoy following your work for sure. It's incredible, and it may come as a huge surprise to you that I didn't actually grow up in the youth sports system in the US. So I only joined late in the NCAA collegiate system as a track athlete, and so that's why I'm really curious to hear more about your firsthand experience on what it's like playing today, and how easy it has been for you to access teams to play. You've touched on that it's not always easy. How was it for you in your own experience?
Right. I think one of the biggest challenges for me and my parents is like I obviously have so much on my plate that I'm trying to balance it all. And a lot of AAU teams at this age are built in a sort of way where you feel forced into only doing one thing, like giving weekdays and weekends to one sport, which is really hard for me because that's not what I want to do. Not yet. Because there's obviously with even if I was journalism in one sport, it'd still be hard for me to be that committed because obviously I love every sport that I play. I love what I do as a reporter. And I feel like kids at my age, at 12, like this young middle school, shouldn't be forced to choose one sport or one activity. And I think, being able to find a team and organizations that are willing to be more reasonable with like scheduling and more open to me missing a tournament here or there. I think, that's sometimes a challenge, but we've kind of found a fit, which is awesome.
I'd love to know how it's helped you to double down on that. How has it helped you by playing those multiple sports? So, for those organizations out there who are so restrictive on the scheduling, and can you highlight to them like why it's so important to play multiple sports and how it's really helped you?
Right. Well, I think the number one reason is playing one sport can often lead to more injury because you're doing the same thing over and over again. And unfortunately, that's true. So playing multiple sports is better for your health. And I think there's so many different lessons you can learn from different sports. It's more open. You can make more friends, right? And I feel like through school sports as well. Like there's 3 seasons, so I play 3 sports at school as well as like my two outside of school teams, which sometimes can be a lot, but it's really important for me to be like open and to because girls and anybody should be open to be able to play any sport they want because maybe for right now for me it's basketball definitely, but maybe I'm trying lacrosse for the first time this spring, maybe I'll do that and I'll fall in love, right? So I just feel like if everybody should be able to try any sport because you never know what might happen.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And is it curiosity that drives your interest to try a new sport at any given season?
Yeah, so I think it's part curiosity. It's also part knowing that like it's important to play a sport in other seasons just to stay in shape for my main season sports as well. And I think you never know who you might meet playing a certain sport. And like I said before, like you never know. Maybe lacrosse will be the sport for me, or maybe it'll be volleyball, which I'm trying in the fall. Like it's just hard to know before you try. So I think it's really important to like try whatever's like available.
Excellent. And do you think that the role of schools and local rec centres are very important in providing opportunities when it can be quite difficult or when cost can be a barrier for some of the travel teams? What are your thoughts around that?
Right. I mean, I think absolutely, like schools and rec centers, like there should be, even if it's not a team, there should be a gym or a field or something available for kids to just feel like they have like the choice or like they can play sports. I think at my school, like we do have sports all season round. And there's a lot more I want for my school on a lot of levels for sports. Just in terms of like we only have 3 or 4 games. I feel like we like stuff like that. But I know there are some schools that don't even have sports. So I
Right.
am really grateful as well for that. And I think like obviously with AAU sports being hard monetarily, schools sometimes I mean there's always PE, right, which is a good opportunity to be active, but I think in terms of playing sports on a team and games, it's also so beneficial. So I would love it if schools would be able to provide that for their students. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. Do you have a favorite moment playing sports that stands out?
Oh, that's a good question. I think like the first thing that came to mind for me was like even it's really recent, but last spring I was at an AU tournament with a team that I just joined for the spring. I was on like a team that had that wasn't really a fit for me as a player. And so I think finding like the team I'm on now was amazing, and I'm really grateful for my coach and my teammates because that opportunity was like it was perfect for me. Like it's exactly what I needed. It was like the kind of team that I really wanted to play on. So we go to this like AAU tournament, right? And the first game we get blown out. None of us played well. Like I didn't play as well as I would have wanted to. I turned the ball over more than I would have wanted to. And then the second game we play, that day, right, it goes into overtime. Right, it was a really close game. It was really exciting. I'm sure it would have been like fun to watch from like an audience perspective. Obviously, in the game, it was pretty stressful. But we came back and we won, and I played really well in like the final minutes in overtime. And so I was just really grateful that it was our last tournament of the season. So I was just grateful that I was able to like perform well and kind of have that like comeback win. So that's one of my favorite experiences. And then I also have to say, for my softball team, for my little league team, my mom is my coach. And so she played softball, and she hates to brag, but she was amazing, which I know. I mean, I've seen like she grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, but I've seen like her in like magazine clippings, like stuff like that. So I can just imagine. And I love having her as my coach. So every moment with her, like coaching me or being able to see her share her knowledge with the rest of our team, I love that too.
Shout out to Mama Persley then
Yeah.
for her career. And you touched on something so important, which is the role of caregivers, parents, or close family as role models and supportive. And it sounds like your parents have been enormously supportive of your journey, and introducing you to sports, and your mom playing softball previously. That sounds like that it's been a very influential on your journey and
Oh,
continues to be.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, my dad ran track. He almost ran in college. And so that was his biggest sport. And then he coached girls basketball for a really long time, basically up to when they had me. He's like my off season trainer. So this summer I've been doing a lot of work with him, which sometimes can be challenging because it's hard to be coached by a parent, I think, sometimes for me. But I love having him, be able to give me all of his expertise because I mean I think it's fun for both of us. And then yeah, so he made it a point to bring me to the WNBA from a young age, which I don't think I would be where I am now from like a reporter standpoint, specifically like covering the W. And then I think yeah, for my mom, she plays softball and field hockey too. Field hockey I haven't tried yet, but maybe I will soon. We'll see. Yeah, but I love having her as my softball coach. I think it's amazing. Like because I never really get to see her like that. So I think with all that passion, because my dad's a teacher, so I kind of understand that more. My mom's a scientist, and she works in teams now. So through her pharmaceutical organization, so I don't really understand all that stuff as much. And I know she's smart and amazing, but being able to see that like firsthand, like while she's giving me advice or seeing her.
Oh, that's remarkable. That's so rich. And it actually is very similar to my story in that my dad ran track and field and my mom played our national sport, camogie. And like that with you, it's a time to spend with them and it's their influence and you learn quite a bit. So it's for sure a really important, and we talked about visibility and just parents being role models and visibility and a supportive family culture and being active for sure helps. And it sounds like it's done the same for you. And I wonder, like, when you talk about coaching, you've had the benefit of your parents, which has been amazing. But because you've played so many different sports, you've really been exposed to, a lot of different coaches and coaching styles and experiences. And I'm curious, when you look at that across those sports, has the approach been more like, we'll say, more guided discovery, where coaches have a little bit more of a hands-off approach? They kind of observe, guide, listen, or has it a little bit more towards maybe structured and formal with a focused objective of trying to win?
I think it's very different for school sports versus like AAU sports. I think I've definitely had coaches who yell a lot, who use a lot of like punishment and stuff. And I think some kids that works. For me, I don't love that. I love running in general, just the way sometimes coaches can phrase it can be like a little bit, I don't know, not mean spirited, but sometimes it feels like that. And I think it's also important for coaches to know that every kid, every girl like has a different coaching style or need. So I think being able to do whatever they can to like work towards that, because I know I've had teammates who don't really like being yelled at like me, or maybe they do. Maybe that's how it gets them like pumped up. So I think it's hard, definitely. I can imagine for coaches, having to balance like trying to be a coach for every single player, but I think it's really important to do what they can to like work towards every person's or every girl's coaching style.
Very, very good point. And what you're bringing up there for you as an athlete, what would you recall when you were maybe 6, 7, 8, you were a bit younger? What would you recall as a good coaching experience or style that you experienced? How did that coach make you feel?
Um, I think when I was younger, a lot of the coaches were similar in the way where it's a lot more like a focus on like having fun than it is about like winning or even like reaching like goals or whatever it was. It was like when you're 6 or 7, is all about keeping kids in the game. I think I had a lot of amazing experiences with coaches, and I think there's this one coach I do remember though. I was like determined to make a shot in 10-foot rim when I was really young, so obviously that was a big challenge for me because I was just so much lower to the ground. And so I remember the first time I was like, I would shoot. I would stay after practice. It would be like 30 minutes. My mom would be waiting in the car. My dad would be like, come on, we've got to go. And I had a coach when I was really young who would like stay with me. And I really appreciated, like the first time I ever made a shot on 10-foot rim. It was an amazing milestone for me. Like now it seems so silly because I do it all the time. But I just think, having her there in that moment was amazing.
Yeah, that's hugely impactful, and it clearly stands out in your mind in terms of the support and the encouragement and how they were part of that experience. And now that you're older, how do how do you view coaching in terms of how do you think a great coach makes you feel?
Hmm. I think a great coach makes me feel like I have succeeded, but I still have room to grow. I think that's like a hard thing to balance. Like I think somebody who might break me down, but that always like builds me back up. Um, and I think I've had coaches who do that. My mom definitely, because I know, and her biggest thing for me is like effort. So I know when I'm not working hard, she'll definitely be the one to like make sure I know she's disappointed in me. But when it's skill work, a lot of the times she'll sit down with me, she'll help me work through, and that is the kind of coach that I really appreciate because. Like obviously, your effort is something you can control, which is like control the controllables. Is one of my mom's like favorite sayings. She always says that. Sometimes it gets annoying, but I do appreciate what she means by that. And so I know like my effort is something that I always try to control now. And like whether that's in basketball practice, like running sprints or whatever it is, like running through play, like I always try to work as hard as I can, even if I'm not understanding some of the skill part of it. Like I always know like I can ask the coach for help, but effort is something you can't really ask for help, right? That's something that you always have to do. And something I've definitely learned from her, something that I really like take with me now.
What a cool framing and so useful.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to look back then, let's go on that thread. What is maybe one or two of the most significant things or messages that a coach whispered in your ear and that helped you become a better athlete?
Right. Yeah, I think definitely control the controllables is up there because it's also something that definitely can like center you. Like if your shot's not falling or this and that's not working, if you just spend 5 minutes just working on running as fast as you can, like playing well in defense, like whatever it is, like that's something that you can always do. I think one of the other things my basketball coach now says a lot is we'll be in like high pressure situations or we'll be losing, whatever it is, we'll be in a huddle. Instead of like yelling at us, trying to give us a play or whatever it is, he'll just say, calm down, like take a breath. I think that is something that I really appreciate because I get really into the game. I'm like, I can be all over the place. And so being in a position where I know I can just take it, just calm down, right? Exactly. So I think that's really helpful, especially in those kind of moments in games. So I think, the two main like head coaches I have now are amazing, and I'm really grateful for both of them. So those are two of their sayings. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Sounds like that coach is super tuned in. What a cool response in those tense moments. That is amazing. That
Yeah.
is so cool. And so when it comes to practice for you right now, what do you look forward to?
I definitely look forward to seeing my teammates and my coaches because like aside from like my when my mom's coaching, like obviously I'm with her all the time, but like my basketball and my softball teammates, I definitely look forward to seeing them. And I always look forward to any opportunity I have to get better, because I think that's really important. I think scrimmaging in practice is something I definitely look forward to because obviously it's like playing games, which I really love. And I think drills, like I think everything about practice I look forward to. I think like I said, any chance to get better is amazing.
That's a cool perspective, and it sounds like you're really centered around progressing and improving, and enjoy the challenge of that in the growth of that. And I'm so curious, when you look back, is there someone who's made a really significant impact on your involvement over sports? Made it possible for you to dream of being a pro hooper. Inspired you and shaped your attitude towards sports.
I think I have to give a lot of that credit to my dad. I think he was the one who like I said, first took me to a basketball game. He was the one who took me to my first basketball practice. He's always been there with me. If I wake up and I'm like, hey, I want to go shoot, like he'll always go shoot with me, like no matter the weather, unless it's raining, because then it's just dangerous. Um, but so I think he's definitely been one who's inspired me to know that that's an option for me. Like he's always there whenever I feel like I want to put work in, or even like the days that I don't, he's understanding. So I think having my dad like in my corner in that way is amazing.
If he was listening now, and maybe he is, what would you say to him? What would you like to say?
Um, yeah, I would just say, thank you for making sure I was involved in sports because it's changed my life for the better, definitely. And I think I'm just really grateful for, having you like in my corner, like I said, like whenever I feel like I want to go shoot, or whenever I just want to watch a game with you, like I enjoy it every time. So I think I'm grateful that you exposed me to sports because now it's like a huge part of my life in the best way possible.
Wow. Imagine if every kid's life could be inspired like that. That's incredible, and it feels like anybody, any kid who's been in an experience like that and had that kind of support, you really do feel elevated by that experience, and that's the power of sports and the power of important role models like your dad. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
That's incredible. I'm curious as we, move forward towards I suppose, the future. And if we were to fast forward to Pepper at the age of 18, so 5 years from now or so, and you're reporting on the state of youth sports, girls in sport, and we know the statistics are challenging right now, and it's hard for kids to access sports, but it's also there's a lot of dropout, as you pointed out. So if you were reporting on the future state of youth sports, what story are you telling us? Can you paint that picture?
I mean, I'd love to be telling you the story of like a 6 year old girl who I feel like this story is like so popular right now with social media, but like the 6 year old girl who is like has amazing ball handling or whatever it is, and posted a video, and like the caption is "Can't wait to play in the WNBA" or something like that. Because I feel like I see a lot now, like these stories of girls, like I said before, who like can't wait, I want to play in the NBA. And I think if girls could just know that the WNBA was out there more than they do now, I think that would be so impactful. So I'd love to be telling that kind of story.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And hopefully we will be telling that story, that there's many sports out there for girls to play, and the visibility will be more and more apparent. What do you think then on the back of that you would like to see that we could be doing differently to encourage more participation in sport?
I think definitely like more advertising.
Right.
I think right. I think like the advertising should be equal for sure because then girls know it's out there, their parents as well. I think it should be easier to find teams and sports that are willing to adapt to schedules and not try to force people into playing one sports. Like I said before, I think definitely trying to move that money barrier down as well because everybody should be able to play sports, girls especially. So those are probably like my three biggest things. Yeah.
Super. Very, very insightful. And is there anything that you think that we're not in talking about, that's not in the dialogue of making youth sports better? Are we missing anything?
Yeah, I think one of the things that like I didn't get to touch on yet that's really important to me
Right.
is like from a girls sports standpoint especially having more female coaches. which is one of the reasons why I think what my mom is doing is amazing in our little league. But I think, right, like if you can see it, you can be it. And having a female coach is so beneficial to girls. So I wish there were more like female coaches out there. I think that would be amazing for girls like me.
That's fantastic. And do you think that even female athletes in the professional leagues or even at collegiate level can help and be more visible and reach out? Do we think, or and we need to, like you were doing, amplify their voices as well as the female coaches?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think there's always more the media can do to promote their stories to make sure girls know that they're out there. So, like it's like the work I'm doing. So I think more people like promoting their stories is always important. Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. So, at the end of this conversation, we are at, and we have a section called Little Big Question, a question from other kids in youth sports. So, the question I have for you is from 9-year-old Bella, and she says, I would like to try softball, but I'm not really very good at sports skills, and I'm not so sure about joining a team. How did you get your confidence?
Hmm. I think Bella definitely try softball. I think I think when I started softball, it was I was 9 too, actually. Yeah. So just a couple of years ago, so more recent than I started any other sport, really. And I think it's softball is an amazing team sport. I think from one of my favorite things is like being in the dugout, waiting to hit, and there's a lot of chanting and cheers and support. So it's like a big sisterhood. So I definitely think softball is amazing. So you should definitely try it. And where do I get my confidence? I think in terms of playing sports, I get my confidence from the people around me for sure. From knowing my coaches have faith in me, knowing my teammates have faith in me, and knowing like sports is the most important thing about sports is just having fun. If you're ever feeling like any pressure to have to win or to have to score this much or get this many hits, like that it's not worth it. I think it's important to know that it's just a game at the end of the day. So having fun is a great way to build up confidence. I think, and like I said before, like working as hard as you can, because effort is something you can always control. So as long as you're working hard and having fun, I think the rest of it, the skill will come to you eventually, if not already. Yeah, so definitely try softball and feel free to let me know how it goes.
Incredible. That's so kind of you. Amazing gems loaded in there. I'm sure Bella will feel much better about taking on softball. Thank you for that. So,
Yeah, of
before
course.
we close out, let's go with our rapid fire round. So, we
Okay.
have a couple of questions, and I'm going to limit you to a little challenge here. We'll have some fun to just maybe like one word or one sentence, if we can keep it nice and short, and
All right.
whatever comes to mind. Are you
Okay.
ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
No pressure, a little challenge here. Okay, this is going to be fun. So, the coolest thing about playing sports is.
Teamwork.
Ooh, I like that. Very good. Okay, 3 words to describe youth sports today.
Fun, rewarding, challenging.
Ooh,
I think it's all
lovely,
those things.
lovely.
Yeah.
Favorite athlete and why?
I'll say Simone Biles right now, just because I think mental health is really important. It's something that's not talked about enough. So I'm really excited to see her come back.
Fantastic. A shout out to Simone Biles. Okay, sport is.
Life changing.
I can feel that. That's electric. Okay, final one. This has been so fun. If leaders in youth sport knew what you knew and really hear your perspective that you've shared today, they would lead by.
Promoting girls' sports more so every girl knows that that's an option for them.
Oh, so fun. What a cool rounding out of this conversation. Pepper, this has been so much fun. Where can we point people to follow you and your journey?
Yeah. So I'm all over social media, on Instagram and Threads at Pepper Persley, TikTok at Pepper Persley 2, YouTube at Dish with Pepper. And this is something that I'm really excited to start talking about more. But I have a children's book coming out really soon, called Not Do Anything, which is kind of about my story handling being bullied and my advice in terms of that and sports in general. So definitely check that out, parents and kids. It's coming out really soon, so you can pre-order it on Amazon, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I'm really excited about that, and I'm really excited to share. Thank you.
Fantastic. So, Cool Play community, check out Pepper Presley's socials and that exciting new book coming out. Is there anything else, Pepper, that you would like to share that I've not covered or chat about before I wrap up?
No, I mean, I want to say again, like, I love what you're doing. I think youth sports is so important to me and so many other girls, like, in my community and everywhere. So thank you for pushing the needle forward for kids to have as much access to sports as possible.
Oh, that's so kind of you. Listen, it's been really an absolute treat to sit down with you like this. And thank you for this such enjoyable and candid conversation. You're absolutely blazing a path. And you're part of the next generation, not just of sports reporters, but athletes. And I will hopefully see you on the court or in sport in the near future. So I'm really excited to look forward and to follow your journey. I hope that we at Cool Play here can be a resource or help for whatever you're doing. And I just want to say thank you so much. Go be your very best.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you, Pepper. Thank you.